Welcome to another edition of Spilling the Tea on GovCon. I'm Teresa Moon, Director of Market Strategy for Parabolis. We are the preeminent partnership for government contractors, providing holistic support that includes a line of credit to fund your growth. The purpose of this podcast is to assist small businesses with success in the federal marketplace by introducing them to industry experts and resources that they may not otherwise know about. Today is someone that is not new to this show or to government contracting in general, Mr. Mark Amtower, godfather of LinkedIn marketing, host of Amtower Off Center, and I am proud to say a very good friend of mine. Thank you for coming back to the show, my friend.
Hey, anytime, Teresa. You're a blast to be with.
Well, thank you. I feel the same about you. And I think it's important to note that your podcast is celebrating a birthday this year, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm in my 19th year now. So
It's amazing.
it is.
I didn't know that podcasting alone had been around for that long, let alone your show. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I don't know if it was it's always been a radio show. So
Yeah.
You can listen at Federal News Radio or Federal News Network, but it's always been downloadable. So I'm assuming that means it's been a podcast.
Counts to me. I mean, what do I know, though? But that is very impressive. And you never cease to amaze with the topics that you cover and the people that you're able to get on the show. So I encourage people, if you haven't listened to it already, give it a listen. Amtower Off Center. You can find it on a lot of different outlets. I listen to you on Apple Podcasts.
I'm on Apple. I'm on Podcast One. You can just go to the station and listen as well, federalnewsnetwork.com.
Awesome.
Whatever you want to do.
Everyone.
Yeah.
There you go. Right.
And I encourage them to listen to you too, because you're always fun.
Well, I appreciate that.
I'm not always fun.
And that wasn't a shameless plug that I paid him for either. So Thank you for saying that. Well, we've had a crazy couple of months here starting the year off in our industry, and there is a ton to cover. And when you and I were discussing things to talk about during this conversation, we chatted through how your expertise can be extremely helpful to businesses that are navigating some of the changing dynamics that are arising in government contracting and, within government and personnel as well. So as always, I want you to start off by letting the listeners that are new to this show and new to government contracting who may not know who you are, let them know a little bit about yourself and your background. And then I'd love for you to talk about the programs and techniques that you can assist business owners with and how they can get involved with you with those.
Well, thank you for that. Amtower and Company also turned 40 this year. So I've been doing this as a consultancy, I think, longer than anybody else. I focus on the marketing side of GovCon, exclusively federal. I don't do SLED. But over the last, I'd say, 12 years or so, I've narrowed down the focus from everything marketing to the government to helping companies differentiate, build out subject matter expert thought leadership platforms, start developing or finding content to share and curate, and leveraging LinkedIn to the maximum, because everybody's on LinkedIn, but apparently most people still don't know how to use it as well as they should. And because everybody else is here, it is the most remarkable and can be free platform to do just a ton of stuff in. And too many people are missing the boat there. So helping you develop a SME, if you are a SME, helping you develop a SME position, leverage content, LinkedIn, put the package together, and then help you build a network around that area of expertise, finding other companies, larger companies that you might want to partner with, and obviously the government people who should be interested in what you do, what you bring to the table.
And I mean, thank you for that information. I can testify to the fact that it works. I worked with you several years ago to utilize my personal brand to help uplift our company and really dig my heels into utilizing LinkedIn at the capacity that it was meant for. And so if anyone is looking for, personal use case, it's me. Happy to share with you my experiences with Mark and even post experience within the program itself. He is more than generous to take calls and introduce you to people in his network. So I encourage you to reach out to him if this is something that you think could take you to the next level. It did with us. It did for me personally and professionally. So I'm giving you hands down, you know, 10 stars.
Oh, I appreciate testimonials and especially that one.
Awesome. Well, considering the fact that there's a lot of changing tides right now in our market, and there's a lot of ways that we can utilize LinkedIn and the things that your programs teach people about, I wanted you to chat a little bit about ABM and LinkedIn and what that means with regard to rules of engagement.
Okay. As you know, Teresa, I do a census of feds on LinkedIn every year. I predicate the number of feds on LinkedIn by finding the company pages that are associated with not only cabinet departments and independent agencies, but operating divisions within those, special offices within those. And I've identified over 740 of those as company pages on LinkedIn. And when there's a company page, you can find people. And so that's what I build my census on. And right now we're sitting at just under 2.9 million feds on LinkedIn, which is pretty significant considering there's not a lot more feds, period. So every department is here, DOD, even the intelligence community, the uniformed services, the cabinet departments, civilian cabinet departments, and independent agencies and commissions are all on LinkedIn. So you can find pretty much anybody you need to. And if you're focused on a particular skill set, energy, finance, transportation, you can find, obviously, Federal Reserve, Transportation Department, et cetera, but they're pretty much every agency operates to greater or lesser degrees in those horizontal niches. And it's important for you to understand the layout of government. So if you're focused on a particular agency and funding starts to dissipate, disappear, evaporate, whatever you want to say, you might have other opportunities within the government. But if you're focused on a particular agency and it's relatively stable financially, the contracts seem to be in place, there's going to be a whole new load of people coming in to those. A lot of people vacating voluntarily or otherwise, and new people coming in. So, if you are an agency based marketing company, if you're focused on one agency or a couple agencies, it's going to be very important for you to find out who the new players are and start following and or connecting and developing relationships there, because regardless of what happens, it's going to be a relationship driven market. And it's important for you to maintain the relationships you have with the people who are still there and develop those new relationships. So, ABM is a tactic that I've been using pre LinkedIn. We did it in the 90s with several companies. Micron PC was probably my prime example. They were competing at the time against this little company called Dell and Gateway. And Micron had, a much smaller budget than Gateway and a massively smaller budget than Dell. But we were able to take beachheads in four agencies and build them out. And we grew business by a factor of five over a 24-month period. So ABM is a very significant way that you can grow. Again, depending on funding, depending on your relationships. I still work with occasionally a company called Resource Management Concepts. When I started working with them, they were a legitimate small. When I say legitimate, I mean population wise, number of employees. They are no longer small, but they focused on the naval warfare centers starting in Pax River, and they've grown over time to be in not only all naval warfare centers, but also in both coasts of NIWC, PAC and Atlantic. So they have a very particular skill set they bring to the table that's important to those. And we just build out a strategy to leverage LinkedIn to build out the connections, not only in the naval agencies themselves, but also with the contractor community
Mhm.
surrounding those locations. And,
Mhm.
you know, it's been extremely successful.
Yeah. I mean, there is something to be said for, I think, people who don't know, who aren't utilizing LinkedIn the way that it can be utilized, don't recognize how you can build a foundation of a relationship and a social acquaintance with people through this platform pretty easily. I mean, I utilized it all through COVID before I was able to start engaging in person with a lot of people that I had never met before. And you hear a lot of, I've followed you on LinkedIn forever. It's so nice to meet you in person. I feel like I already know you. So I think that is a detail of it that people need to recognize, that especially if you're just breaking into the market. You and are involved in a weekly discussion group. And we were talking about it last week about how going to events are important, but sometimes marketing divisions of companies, especially small businesses, don't have the budget to get memberships to organizations and things like that. There's a lot of ways to interact by utilizing it that is almost equally as appealing for a lot of different in a lot of different ways that an in-person event can provide.
Yeah, it's amazing
What do
how
you think?
many people I see at events where they swear we've met. Oh, it's a long time. And I'm thinking to myself, we've never met. You just know me through LinkedIn. But I'm not going to say that. um,
Right.
so yeah, I
Yeah.
mean
I
it,
mean, but that's a
but
good
you're
thing.
exact. Yeah, it's a great thing.
I think that being able to identify some of the ways that you can utilize it, to its those are things that we worked on together. And I saw today on LinkedIn that someone was posting about how the different types of engagement have changed, and how when you're approaching new people on it, there's a, code of conduct and etiquette, if you will, with reaching out. Those are things that we talked about back then as well. I know it's a little bit off topic from things that we dealt with, but as you're seeing new people arise at agencies that you're working at that may have been in government for a long time, you know, in terms of rules of engagement, right? What are a couple of off the cuff tips? I mean, obviously, don't send me a sales pitch. I really hate that. I usually just delete it right away if someone is sales pitching me, but, you know, as we're looking into really increasing our visibility with people that may be moving from one agency that's lost funding to an agency that now has gotten a little bit more and your capabilities work there. Any tips of the trade with connecting with people that they may not otherwise know?
Well, first of all, make sure that anything political on your profile no longer exists if you ever had it there. LinkedIn is not the platform for politics or religion or cheap shots. So that's been my mantra since I started coaching people in '09. So, number one, do that. Then, when you reach out, try to offer a context for reaching out to connect. If you have no legitimate context for reaching out yet, just follow the person until you can have, hey, I've been following you for a while. I see you're involved in this. I'd welcome connecting. And, I usually put in, and I'd welcome a short chat. That may or may not be appropriate when you're approaching a new person, especially the senior people in government. But for frontline people, maybe even program managers, go ahead and throw it in. All they're going to do is either connect with you and not reply to the, meeting part, or they'll connect with you and say, "Yeah, I'm free, you know, June 2029."
And in which case you got to take a hint, right?
Well, but I have people who say, you know, "I'm really slammed the next month or 2," and I'll drop a line back saying, "I'll put a tickler in my calendar to get back in touch with you in, 10 weeks." And I do. So, if they give you a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel like that, take it and make sure you do follow up and remind them of that conversation. You said you might be free sometime soon. I'd still love to have a chat when it's convenient for you. My calendar app is on my profile for a reason.
Yeah.
I want people to be able to connect with me to schedule a time to chat. I'm a consultant. That's what it's what I live for.
Right. And that's important to note too, because not everyone's as open to having chats like you are.
Yeah.
So don't expect it from everyone. That's for sure. When it comes to, finding the key players in organizations,
Mhm.
it's not always something that jumps off the page at people. How do you weed through everyone that's listed on an agency or organization's, LinkedIn group. How do you find the ones that are the key players? And then once you have that information, what do you do with it?
Well, I mean, you follow the media, you follow your agency, you have a Google alert on the agency. So you're looking for key personnel appointees, number one. So you can identify people that way. A somewhat easier way, and it's a little bit of a hack, is to go to the agency company page on LinkedIn. In the about part, scroll down to the bottom, and it will say, these are our new management hires. And on some pages, that goes on for, 10, 15, 20 people. Sometimes there's none. But if they're on LinkedIn and they're newly appointed, that's where they're going to show up. The other thing you can do to find key people is also going to the company page on LinkedIn, but scrolling over to the people thing, clicking on that, and then scrolling down. And LinkedIn, with its all of its information about you, will say, these are people you may know,
Mhm.
and they're all going to be second degrees. So you have some sort of tenuous connection with them, or maybe a little stronger. So when I want to connect with people in government, I start that way. But if I really want to start building out relationships in an agency, I'll look for those second degrees where I share 10, 15, 20 or more connections with them and say, hey, we share a bunch of connections on LinkedIn, but I'm not going to try to sell you anything because I'm not a contractor, but I'd welcome connecting and having a short chat to see if there's any way I can help you. So,
That's a great way to get someone to respond without seeming like you're trying to jump in their lap, so to speak, when they're
right,
not ready for that type of relationship with you yet. I think that's a great recommendation. With regard to that as well, I know that I do. I'm pretty sure that you do as well. So I got to imagine most people who don't know you, who you've reached out to on LinkedIn for making that connection, they look you up, right? They want to see what you post about, what you do before they respond in some circumstances to your
right.
request for a connection. So I think that with that in mind, discussing a little bit more in depth about why remaining neutral on LinkedIn is so important.
Remaining neutral on LinkedIn has always been important, but it has become much more so since the last election. This is a very polarized country right now, and we don't need more divisiveness, particularly in business relationships. And LinkedIn, make no mistake, is a business platform. This is not Facebook. This is not Instagram. You're not going to talk about your cats or your vacation, or you shouldn't. But you present your number one, your profile is absolutely key. Your profile and your company profile. If those are not explaining who you are, what you do, what the value is you bring to the market or to a particular type of client, shoot yourself because, you know, everybody's here. Everybody is vetted on LinkedIn first. It's where people go. Your company's vetted here. So if your company profile just says, 8-person systems integrator, wrong answer. What are you bringing to the table? Clearly enunciate it. Tell them, which vehicles you're available on. I would downplay at this point the set aside status because the incoming people are less likely to be interested in that. I wouldn't say take it off, but I'd say downplay it. It's still going to play a role for a while because those are all statutory. They cannot be eliminated by executive order as much as somebody might think they could.
Yeah.
But so your profile and your company profile have to say everything that is important business wise about you. And then just avoiding. I mean, there are more posts now that seem to have a political bent. Avoid those, don't comment on those, don't share those. Regardless of your political leanings, this is not the platform for that. If you want to engage in that, try it on another platform, but not here. So being neutral on LinkedIn doesn't mean you're not going to be able to talk about your area of expertise. That's what you're here for. It means you are avoiding the the comments and discussions on the politicization, on the current nature of the ecosystem. We want to remain as calm and as positive as possible.
Well, and for so many reasons. I mean, not to, exclude the fact that you might make the wrong person mad that you really need down the line. And if you ever find that out, talk about, shooting yourself in the foot, right? All over, what you could have kept to yourself because it isn't the right platform for that. There's plenty of other places where you can spout off about how you feel personally about stuff. It's it's definitely been eye-opening because you're seeing a lot of it on LinkedIn and, it's sprouting up more now than it did, in the last year or two, but becoming increasingly more. So I really am glad that you addressed that because hopefully people are listening and it helps them better position themselves because LinkedIn is such a great marketing tool for your personal brand and for your business's brand. And I'd hate for people to ruin that for themselves just for the sake of, having less to say about what their business is doing and what their business is looking for and more to say about what they think personally about stuff.
Right. Let's take particular examples. It's currently Black History Month and I believe Women's History Month, or, I think they're concurrent. But yes, I think both are extremely important. I am not commenting on them on LinkedIn for the reasons that we just enunciated. I don't agree with the administration policies on DEI, but I never had a he, him after my name either. I just, for me, I didn't care. If you don't know who the hell I am, go away. But, if I want to piss people off, I can do it. And I unfortunately probably do it more often than not. But I don't want to do it intentionally on LinkedIn.
Mhm. Yeah. Yep. I mean, those are good points of advice, especially if you're looking for to attracting positive attention to yourself.
Yep.
Well, I know that you've got some private events coming up. I hope that we can entice you to come to the HubZone conference. I'm gonna put you on the spot. I didn't tell you I was gonna do this, but I'm on the board of directors for them. You've been there
Oh,
before. Everyone
yeah.
loves seeing you.
If you put me on the speaking platform, I will definitely show. Otherwise, it's difficult for me to get out for an entire day
Yeah.
or multiple days.
We'll have to
Fortunately,
look into
I
that.
yeah,
I might know a few people that can help with that.
well, you and I could do a session on LinkedIn.
There we go.
So there, every small company right now needs to understand the power that LinkedIn can bring to the table for them.
Mhm.
HubZone, women owned, veteran, A-Days, American Indian, Native Americans, all of the above. If you're not highlighting the skills you bring to the table, shoot yourself. In the group that you mentioned earlier, our
Mhm.
GovCon ideator group, a couple of weeks ago, somebody reach out, a small business reach out and said, I'm tired of reaching out to the integrators. I want them reaching out to me. And his answer was, well, that's going to take a long time and a lot of money. And I charge X number of dollars. I said, wrong answer. It's never going to happen because they don't reach out to companies just because they're making a lot of noise.
Mhm.
And they have more than enough companies reaching out to them. And when they have those companies reaching out, they have a person, the SBLO, or a staff of SBLOs, small business liaison people, who are going to vet those companies prior to setting up any sort of meeting with them.
Mhm. Yeah. Those are other good key players that you should look for on LinkedIn as well, the SBLOs. Those are always good people to know.
And usually they're very helpful. I
Mhm.
won't say 100%
No.
because there's some that just seem to, when you call, you're waking them up from a nap.
I think that's with everything too. I think, there's different personalities in the same level on across the board, but I've had pretty good experience with that particular role. I think that they usually are wanting to help, but those are always
Yeah.
good
One of
good
my
people to
favorite ones
identify.
One of my favorite ones retired a little while back, Ludmilla Parnell over at GDIT. She'd been in that role for a long time, and we knew we'd see each other every year 3 or 4 times at the meet and greet events, at
Mhm.
the at the places where smalls could pitch large and, things like Hub Zone or the 8A or the veterans. So,
Yeah.
and she was quite helpful.
GDIT has a great team now too. I work with them pretty closely, and so her predecessors are doing a great job over there as well.
Good.
So, well, I appreciate you being on as always. I always love talking to you, and I'm encouraging everyone to follow you on LinkedIn so they can find out if you will be attending any of the events in the year ahead. You always are. You're publishing like crazy as well, so you got lots of articles that are coming out frequently throughout the year. So definitely follow Mark on LinkedIn if you're not already, and check out Amtower Off Center at all the different outlets where you can find him. Thank you so much.
Teresa, it's always a blast to be with you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And we appreciate having you all here joining us today. As always, we pride ourselves on sharing the most insightful and exciting people and information to help you better navigate your GovCon journey. If you like what you heard today, you can see all of our past podcasts, which are archived on our YouTube channel by the same name. Stay tuned for all of our future guests in the coming months as we help you grow to great heights in the year ahead. I'm Teresa Moon, and this is Spilling the Tea on GovCon. Have a great day, my friends.